There's a guy I know named Robert, retired at 63 after 35 years in logistics management. Good career, disciplined saver. Walked out of his last day of work with $1.4 million in his 401k and a pension that throws off $2,200 a month. By every retirement calculator he'd ever used, he was fine. More than fine. 6 months later, he called me, sounding genuinely confused. Not panicked, just confused. He said, "I'm spending the same amount I always spent, but the money feels like it's leaving faster." I asked him to walk me through his monthly expenses, and within about 4 minutes I spotted it. He was still paying for 5 things that made complete sense when he was earning a salary and made almost no sense now that he wasn't. This is the retirement trap nobody talks about in the glossy brochures. Everyone focuses on accumulation. How much do you need? What's your number? How do you get there? And that part of the conversation is important, but once you actually cross the finish line, the game changes completely. The math that built your wealth is not the same math that preserves it, and the spending habits that felt justified on a salary can quietly hollow out a fixed portfolio in ways that don't show up until it's too late to correct. The 4% rule tells you that a $1 million portfolio can safely generate $40,000 per year for 30 years. But that math assumes you're not leaking money on expenses that no longer serve the life you're actually living. Every dollar that exits your portfolio unnecessarily isn't just a dollar lost, it's a dollar that would have compounded for the next decade. At 7% annual returns, $10,000 spent today is really $20,000 gone in 10 years. That's the invisible cost nobody puts in their retirement spreadsheet. So here are 5 things that are no longer worth your money once you retire, and the math behind why cutting them changes your trajectory more than most people realize. Number 1. Life insurance with a death benefit you no longer need. Life insurance exists to replace income. The logic is straightforward. If you die unexpectedly, your policy pays out so your dependents don't lose the income they relied on. That made sense at 38 when your kids were in grade school and your mortgage had 22 years left. At 65, the calculus is completely different. Your kids are grown, your mortgage is either paid off or close to it, and your income is no longer a salary that disappears when you do, it's a portfolio that continues generating returns whether you're here or not. The average whole life insurance premium for a 65-year-old male runs between $2,000 and $4,000 per year. Over a 20-year retirement, that's $40,000 to $80,000 in premiums, money that could have stayed invested and compounded. If you need life insurance to cover funeral costs or leave a legacy, term policies are dramatically cheaper. But for most retirees, the honest answer is that the need for death benefit coverage has quietly expired. The product stuck around because nobody told them to revisit the question. Number 2, a house that costs more to maintain than it gives back in quality of life. This one is uncomfortable because the house is usually the largest single asset in a retiree's net worth, and there's an emotional attachment to it that's completely understandable. You raised your family there. You know where every creaking floorboard is. You have 25 years of neighborhood relationships. But here's the math that most people refuse to run. A $600,000 house carries an average annual cost of roughly 1 to 2% of its value per year in maintenance, taxes, insurance, and utilities. That's $6,000 to $12,000 per year, money leaving your pocket with no return, just to stay in a house where most of the rooms are empty now that the kids are gone. Compare that to a smaller property at $350,000 in the same metro area. Suddenly, you've unlocked $250,000 in equity and cut your annual carrying costs by $3,000 to $5,000 per year. That $250,000 invested at 7% generates $17,500 annually. You didn't earn more money, you just stopped paying the wrong house to sit in rooms you don't use. Robert was doing exactly this. 4-bedroom colonial, 2 people, $1,200 a month in property taxes alone. Number 3, 2 cars. This is the one that gets the most pushback, but bear with me. During your working years, 2 cars wasn't a luxury, it was logistics. 2 people with 2 jobs going in 2 directions at different times. The math was obvious. You needed 2 cars. End of discussion.
Retirement changes the underlying logistics entirely. In most households, both people are now home. Your schedules are flexible by definition. The reason you needed two vehicles has structurally disappeared, but the habit of two cars and the insurance, registration, maintenance, and depreciation that come with two cars persists long after the justification for them has evaporated. The average annual cost of vehicle ownership in 2026, factoring in insurance, maintenance, depreciation, and registration, runs approximately $10,000 to $12,000 per car. Two cars is $20,000 to $24,000 a year. One well-maintained vehicle drops that in half. The $10,000 to $12,000 saved annually, invested at 7% over 15 years, compounds to roughly $290,000. That is not a rounding error. That is a meaningful chunk of retirement security that most couples are trading in for a car that sits in the driveway 4 days out of 7. Number 4. Subscriptions and memberships you pay for psychologically, not practically. This category sounds small, but the numbers are deceptive because they're designed to be invisible. The gym membership at $85 a month because you kept telling yourself you'd go more consistently once you retired, and then you didn't. The streaming platforms you signed up for during the pandemic and forgot to audit. The professional association memberships that made sense when you had a career to advance, but now just send you emails you delete. The meal kit service, the premium news subscription you read occasionally. Here's the mechanism that makes this expensive. Recurring small charges exploit the psychological phenomenon called payment pain desensitization. When you swipe a card for $85, you feel it. When $85 leaves your account automatically on the 14th of every month, you feel almost nothing. Research consistently shows that people underestimate their subscription spending by 40 to 80%. When you ask someone how much they spend on subscriptions, they guess $50 to $100 a month. The actual number is usually $180 to $300. Run the audit. Actually pull up your bank statements and card statements from the last 90 days and categorize every recurring charge. Most retirees find between $150 and $400 a month in subscriptions they either forgot they had or dramatically undervalued relative to actual use. At the conservative end, eliminating $150 a month in unused subscriptions is $1,800 a year, and at 7% over 20 years, that's $73,000 in compounded value you stopped leaking.
Number 5. Financial products with fees that were worth paying during accumulation and aren't anymore. This is the most counterintuitive one on the list, but the math is unambiguous. During your accumulation phase, actively managed mutual funds, variable annuities with income riders, and fee-based advisory accounts can make sense because you're making complex decisions: asset allocation, tax loss harvesting, Roth conversions, employer stock options. The complexity justifies the cost. In retirement, the strategy simplifies considerably for most people. You have your allocation, you're drawing it down at a controlled rate. The primary job is not to panic, not to make dramatic changes, and not to let anyone sell you into unnecessary complexity. A straightforward portfolio of low-cost index funds with an expense ratio of 0.03 to 0.10% accomplishes this at a fraction of the cost of actively managed products that typically charge 0.75 to 1.5% annually. On a $1 million portfolio, the difference between a 0.05% expense ratio and a 1% expense ratio is $9,500 per year. Over 20 years of retirement at 7% growth, that fee differential compounds to roughly $400,000. The financial product didn't generate $400,000 in extra value to justify that cost, it just took it. Here's the frame that ties all 5 of these together. Retirement is not a pause in your financial life, it's a phase change. The expenses that supported an income-earning life are not automatically valid in an income-drawing life. Most people never stop to ask whether each dollar leaving their portfolio is going towards something that genuinely serves where they are now, or whether it's a holdover from a version of life that no longer exists. Robert made 4 of these 5 changes within 8 months of that phone call. His monthly burn rate dropped by $1,400.
His portfolio, instead of drawing down on the trajectory he was on, started recovering toward its original balance. He didn't earn more money, he didn't change his lifestyle in any way he actually noticed, he just stopped paying for things that were solving problems he no longer had. That's the retirement optimization most people never do, not because it's complicated, but because nobody frames the question correctly. The question isn't just how much do you have, it's how much are you keeping, and is every dollar leaving your account actually worth what you're paying for it? If you got something from this, subscribe and drop a comment. Tell me which of these 5 you're going to look at first. I'll see you in the next one.